Hey guys, my name is Joel. I'm a second year law student. We're here today at UCID to record the first episode of the Intrusive Thoughts podcast. I think the boys are already here. Let's go say hi. This is the setup. Ethan, how are we?
Joel.
You want to introduce yourself to the camera?
Will do. Hey guys, I'm Ethan. I'm a second year law student and massive sports fan.
Look, good game.
It was always a lovely.
Want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Shanok. I'm a second year physiotherapy student trying to get into medicine. And the boys and I have decided to make a podcast and see where it takes us.
Beautiful. We'll see you on set.
Alright, welcome everyone back to our first proper podcast.
Of the Intrusive Thoughts podcast.
There we go.
Hopefully this one gets posted. I'm sure you guys have seen some clips
We've seen
of
some-
the other
yeah.
one, but let's hope this one makes it.
So how have you guys been?
Haven't been too bad. What about you boys?
Yeah, not bad.
Guys,
Been busy, like holidays, but staying busy.
Any plans? Any plans soon or?
Well, I'll be going to Hawaii
Oh,
in
really? When is that?
roughly a week and a half.
A week and a half?
So-
How long are you staying there for?
A week and a half.
Oh really?
So,
Well there you go. What about you, Joel?
No, nothing much. Enrolled in uni. Got that
Oh,
sorted.
you got that
Yeah,
sorted?
got that sorted finally.
Done the timetable?
Kind of. We're in between figuring that out.
Ah, okay. That's
you
fair.
guys keen for uni to start as well? Or?
I mean, second year. I've seen a few of the units this year for like my degree. It's looking better than last year.
Yeah,
I'll
better
say
than
that
last
much. What about you two?
Yeah, same. Because I'm at UCID this year, so hopefully,
Oh yeah.
hopefully that's gonna be fun.
You
We'll
looking
see.
forward to the transition in unis?
Yeah, 100%. I think I've done that a lot. I moved a lot of high schools, right? So then
Yeah.
I'm doing that in uni as
Yeah,
well. I'm
that's
just
true, right?
jumping
Accustomed to it,
around.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just used to it
The
at
only
this
thing
point.
is going to be that travel's a bitch, eh?
Yeah, true.
That's
Yeah,
it.
Travel's always a mission that you said.
Back
But,
to UCID.
what about you? And you looking forward to this year?
Well, I
as
haven't enrolled in like half my courses, so I haven't.
Yeah.
Should get that done.
I should get that done now.
Yeah, fair.
Wait, you got on your time haven't you?
For one of my courses, I've enrolled in, but
Oh, okay.
I still have two other courses
Oh,
to
no.
enroll in, and I haven't done that yet. So
Should get to it.
should get to it soon.
Wait,
Probably.
when do you guys start? Because
we
you guys start the same.
We start.
Same
Well, I'm
time
starting same time as you.
Same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
UNSW I think starts on the 14th
of Feb.
of Feb or the 13th.
Oh, so you start like
So-
a week.
A week.
A week or two.
Yeah.
A
ahead,
week
yeah.
before, yeah.
Okay,
So,
well, there you
there
go.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, did you guys stay like in tune for the KSIV Temper boxing influencer boxing thing?
I did.
Ooh, I didn't.
I'll be
So-
honest with
Oh,
you. I
What
thought
are your
that.
thoughts?
I thought JJ was gonna win that. Always.
I mean,
I
I-
never had any doubt, bro. To be honest.
100%. I feel like Jade is just that dog. You know what I mean? He has that dog
He's
mentality.
got a bit of a Mongol in him.
Yeah.
You know, he's.
But do you think he's improving? Like,
Yeah, but I reckon if he fought Jake,
do you think he can get to a point where if he fights Jake Paul, he could win?
I reckon so. But I reckon that's like a solid year
You
and a
reckon, yeah?
half from
Oh,
happening.
Did you see Salt Pappy?
Honestly, and Salt Pappy was so good. as
Bro,
well.
you've got to see this. Do you know who Salt Pappy is?
Kind of.
Yeah,
Heard
so
of.
he vests this guy called Josh Bruckner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's actually like a proper MMA guy.
He's already had, like,
Clean knocked him out.
Damn.
Bruckner has like 4 professional fights
Yeah,
or
bro,
something
he's
like that
like
already.
and he's jacked,
Yeah.
jacked. But
He's done well.
yeah, what are your thoughts on influencer boxing?
Influencer boxer. I think it's very fun. Like as a consumer of it, it's
Yeah.
very fun, right? Like you have a much more personal connection.
Yeah.
You kind of a lot of us kind of grew up with these influencers
Oh,
or those
yeah,
people,
facts.
right? So you kind of watch them and then you're like, damn, that's someone I looked at. Or like I watched, I
Yeah.
consumed who they were. I kind of watched them grow
Yeah.
up, and then now they're on this professional kind of boxing scene, and
Yeah.
that's insane. Like I think it's very fun. Like
Well,
it,
the three of us were always fans of KSI.
Yeah,
always,
for
always
sure.
big fans.
right? It's
So
like it's such good
his
fun.
transition into boxing was didn't expect it to happen.
True.
So
And then I feel like everyone kind of took it as a joke at the
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
It was like bare jokes at the start.
But then
And then
I think it's the Jake Paul that took it to a different level.
exactly,
Like,
it
investing
got
in
really
influencer
it
competitive.
became really serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, but you got to respect it. Like now they're actually like, if you see when they started, they just like fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
now they're actually going to training camps. Like, got to respect it.
Sure.
Like, boxing is
Yeah.
just like hard.
A tough sport to
tough
get
sport
into,
to get
right?
into.
Like very, very difficult
Yeah.
sport. So it's good that they're taking it seriously now, as it makes for better content.
Do you think like hypothetically, I gave you like a professional match.
Yeah.
I gave you like one of these influencer boxing matches, right? Which one would you rather watch?
Ooh. I would still say the professional,
I'd
right?
say-
I think
Well,
so.
it depends on who's fighting.
That is true. as
Actually,
It
well.
yeah,
depends on
that's
who's
true.
fighting.
KSI v Jake Paul
Or
Wilder versus Joshua.
okay, so Wilder v Joshua. If that happened now, that would be 5 years too late, right? Yeah,
Actually,
5
yeah,
years
that's
too
right.
late. So I don't think.
It would be as nice as it would have been.
Nah, it wouldn't be. So it was JJ and Jake Paul.
Yeah, JJ
Oh
and
yeah,
Jake Paul.
I'd go with that one because I think there's still anticipation building for that fight.
Yeah.
Wilder and Joshua, that's down the drain.
Yeah.
I think honestly.
See, Tommy Fury's versing Jake Paul now
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
for the third time. Okay,
For the
but
third
yeah,
time,
like-
exactly. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll
what
see.
happens
We'll see
there.
when it happens. It'll happen.
It's
But
happening next month, like in like almost exactly
Yeah.
next month. Hey,
Who do you got your money on though?
Tommy.
Tommy, for
Tommy.
sure.
Tommy?
But see, like, I feel like everyone wants to see Jake lose at this point.
Yeah. That's,
Like, everyone's just rooting for him to lose. So, I mean, we'll see. I
Yeah.
think there's. Do you think it can be rigged? Do you think that's.
I actually don't know.
Like, I have
There's
no
a history
clue,
of
right?
rigged boxing fights, bro.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 100%.
I feel like there's a history of rigged sports in
Sporting
general.
events in
Sporting in
general,
general
yeah.
has
Yeah.
always
I
just
mean,
been.
one example is if we go really back in the '88 Olympics, right? And this is in the amateur scene. So this isn't rigged boxing events aren't as prominent in the amateur scene
Yeah.
as they are in the professional scene. What happened was Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah.
you guys have heard
No
of him.
clue.
Legend of the
One of the
legend
greatest pound for pound
Yeah.
boxers of all time, was destined to win the gold medal. He'd
Oh,
gone through the whole tournament, obviously
Mm.
undefeated. He'd made it to the gold medal fight, and he was versing the South Korean opponent. I'm not too sure what his name
Yeah.
was. Mind you, this Olympics was in Seoul,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah.
And the South Korean bloke won 3-2.
Really?
If you rewatch that fight, Jones almost won every single
Every
round.
single, yeah.
If
Damn.
not, 4-1 his
Oof.
way, right?
Jeez.
And it became news afterwards that the fight had been rigged.
Yeah. Wait,
Jeez.
did they. Was that like a public announcement by
Not
someone?
a public
how was
announcement.
How was
Yeah,
it?
It's
yeah,
sort of,
yeah.
it's sort of. I think news just. I think the judges were paid
Oh,
or
really?
something like that. So I'm not too sure exactly.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that
It kind of became common knowledge that it was rigged.
yeah.
Thing is, right? Surely, like Jake Paul's like knocked out most of his opponents, right?
True.
Mm. But his opponents have been shit, bro.
Yeah.
Let's be
Okay.
honest.
No,
Fair.
yeah. But I'm saying like, if it's rigged, right? Who as an opponent would be like, okay, yeah, you can knock me out, just give me this amount of money.
I feel like a lot of people.
Oh,
Really?
yeah, 100%.
A lot of the people.
I
he's-
reckon Ben Askren was that.
Like
I
they're,
reckon
they're,
so.
they're on the tail end of their careers. They want the paycheck.
For
100%.
for them to get knocked out.
Realistically, you forget about it.
Actually, that's
Like
valid.
public perception wise, it's not like we're harping on these people. They didn't
Yeah.
sell their souls
That's valid.
to do this. You cop like a week of backlash and a couple laughs
Yeah,
and a
that's
couple
true.
memes on Instagram,
Couple memes,
and
yeah.
then
You're
you're back at home
It just
chilling
becomes
with
normal.
millions of
Exactly,
dollars.
100%.
That's
So
true.
I don't think it's
They're playing the game.
they're playing the
Sure,
game,
sure.
right? That
Game.
game is game.
The game
Yeah.
is the game.
Exactly.
But
I think that is a nice little intro into our topic
yeah,
for today's
Podcast.
podcast. We were
social
kind of
media.
thinking about looking at social media.
And I think, I mean, going off that topic, like influencers, and I guess that's their main, like, I think their mindset is just trying to get as many income streams as they can.
True.
Yeah.
Like they have YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Or like Twitch, whatever they do, right? And then they're also doing boxing. If you look at JJ, for example, you have YouTube, you have boxing, you have like music.
Yeah.
You have Prime.
True.
Like, I think it's just like those side hustles, like,
The diversification
That's
of
it.
what they're doing, and it's. I
That's
mean,
it.
it's great to see. You see it on like in the reverse way as well, where professional athletes kind of really want like a large media presence.
yeah.
I mean, I'll bring one of our favourite footy players, Josh Adokar, has now introduced his own clothing brand
Oh,
as
true.
well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, it's with that diversifying your brand
Yeah.
and your name.
Yeah.
I think definitely social media and these big time YouTubers
Yeah,
and
for sure.
influencers have definitely sort of introduced that into the mix.
And having that large brand of a personality on social media pays way more than
yeah.
not having it.
100%.
Almost, it can almost compensate for how good of an athlete you actually are.
Yeah.
I don't know if you follow the NBA too deeply, but like
Yeah.
somebody like Ja Morant is just way more advertisable than
Uh-huh.
say, I don't know, like Luka Doncic or something.
Yeah.
Where even though Luka is by far bounds and bounds better, from a marketing point of view, Ja Morant is that guy. Everybody looks up to the guy. He sells way more jerseys. If they were both to have a shoe line, just because public's perception of that person is just way larger, he's going to be doing a lot more
Than Luca.
Yeah. Right?
I mean, I guess hustle's the hustle, you know what I mean?
Exactly, right? Game's game.
The game is the game. But, yeah, I mean, like what other, like, you talk about just mainstream side hustles.
Yeah.
If you go on YouTube right now and just be like, what are the best side hustles? You see drop shipping.
True.
What are your thoughts on drop shipping and like stuff like that where it's like e-commerce related? Do you think it's worth it?
Personally, I'm not too well immersed in it, but I've heard, I mean, from YouTube, I've heard it's extremely profitable if it's done well.
But I feel like that's with
most e-commerce.
That's most things in life, period, right? If you're good at something, you go after it, you really
100%.
commit yourself to it. It will probably turn a pretty profitable outcome.
I know you've
Dabbled
done
in it, yeah.
How do you go for you?
For me personally, it's definitely been something that has turned a decent profit. It's also been very enjoyable. Like the whole process of learning, being able to literally sit at home with like no previous degrees, no experience in the place, and not relying on like an employer, my own working hours quite literally. Even though I'm not like working under anything, being able to create like a literal business off drop shipping was quite a positive outcome for me. In a general sense, I think it can, especially nowadays, it can be very misleading. You see, like obviously we see a lot of people kind of advertising the fact that drop shipping or things can be very profitable and can make a good turnover, but how many of these people are actually doing it quite genuinely, where they're not just trying to sell a course? Like that's the main thing. We've seen it happen so much.
You reckon they're all like scams, like pyramid schemes?
Ooh, no. Pyramid scheme. Occasionally you will see them, but I think
a small portion of it compared to
how many of them are actually being genuine about it.
Yeah.
I think I could back the fact that it's almost 50-50. I think half of them are just trying to get.
What do you think about Andrew Tate's Hustlers University?
I think that blew up so much that it, at least from what I've heard about it, I don't think the content is actually amazing.
I mean, we saw that. Remember, we went to the beach that day, and then after, you weren't there.
I went.
We saw one of the waiters was a Hustlers University student.
Was she actually a student?
Yeah, she was like
in the course and stuff.
Yeah, like in the course, and then she was like, we were asking her, is it actually like worth what it says? And she was like, look, it's hard work, but like it'll pay off.
Yeah.
So there we go.
I mean,
like, what's the actual course content though?
I mean,
it's just e-commerce courses. I believe they're just like
whatever.
Someone's teaching you
basically
how to like do one of these courses, and I think core concept wise, it's great. You're learning stuff. You're like things that could actually turn like into like a good business, but then. Is the quality of content there? Are there better resources out there?
True.
There's probably a bunch of free stuff if you went looking for it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, it's not a bad thing. Yeah. Those income streams are what we're all looking for. Trying to break into, I don't know, that next level of income.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess
moving along.
Proper question. Joel, you want to get us started?
Sweet. Okay, so we were kind of thinking about the idea that is love the same as it was 100 years ago as a consequence of social media. Just to kind of explain that concept a little bit, it would be...
Actually, what do you boys want to define as... What's your definition of true love?
What is true
love?
What is true love?
That's actually... Chinook, you're the one in the relationship between the three of us. That is true. So if you want to enlighten us on where you stand on this.
Okay, look. I think it's a feeling that once you're with the person that like you're with, right? It's something that sort of develops with time, and it's something that like you just open yourself up to like the person that you're with more and more.
Yeah.
And I feel like as you get that attachment, that's where you get like true love and all that.
Okay.
I'm sure there's more like other stuff to it. Like definitions will change
different. Because maybe people. There's one where it's like,
well, love at first sight.
Love at first sight. Right?
Love at first sight.
But I also feel like there's got to be that connection, like that,
developing,
or at least there should be a connection between the two.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair. What do you think actually...
Is that, let's say the chemistry, does it have to be instantaneous or can it be one in the process that
I mean, I
What is
feel
it?
like it can develop.
Okay.
But I mean, would you really go into a relationship if a connection wasn't there
Initially,
Yeah.
right?
initially,
That's
right? So
fair.
you develop it.
So what do you
and
think are those factors that kind of build that feeling of love or like that connection? Are there certain factors that you can attribute? And I think that's going to really play into, has social media given us more access to more of these factors, or
Or has it sort of
I mean,
restricted?
yeah, exactly.
Are you still talking about like how like factors that will get you to true love?
Yeah.
Okay. I think, like in my case, I think just time spent with the other person, and like just getting to like, the more time you spend, the more better you get to know them.
Yep.
Right. Like, even like while you're in a relationship, but I feel like, see, like my personal take on social media, and if it's sort of
Corrupting it.
yeah, like corrupting love. I think 100 years ago, this is my personal opinion
Yep.
because I was talking about it before, but I think that it's like sure, arranged marriages. Well, would you say they're more prominent 100 years ago?
Look, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
I'd
know
say
quite a
probably-
few of my like my ancestors there were quite a few arranged marriages
Arranged.
there. Obviously now, there isn't really any,
Yeah.
right? So
I think in Western society there,
Western
it,
society,
it doesn't seem to
not
be
there.
too prominent. I'm sure there's a bunch of like odd cases
Yeah.
here
Do
and there.
you think though
But-
that Tinder and all those types of social media platforms, do you think it's a substitute for arranged marriages? Do you think it's arranged marriages but concealed
See, the thing is,
through
right?
an application?
I feel like Tinder, like just dating apps in general, are like corrupting, like true love.
How come?
Because I feel like it's not like as genuine as finding someone naturally. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's too forced.
Because you're putting in, it's basically
But
an
then it's-
algorithm where you're basically putting in your
okay,
preferences,
like
your
you're-
distance, your age, all these things, and it's basically just giving you an answer. And it's like,
Yeah, exactly.
okay, this is.
I mean, to be fair, right? If you're looking, you have like a certain, you're looking for something. You have this idea in your mind where you're like, I'm looking for this.
Okay.
Does a dating app just give you access to that criteria?
Sure.
Yeah.
But I
So
feel like,
why would that be corruptive if you're getting what you want?
but again, for me, I feel like the more natural it is how you can find like establish the connection.
Yeah.
Like finding someone on a phone.
Yep.
For me personally, I'm not
Not about that.
no, not really about that. So you know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think there's a good amount of potential for. I think the theory is great. I think on paper, if you're like a dating app to like an alien who's thinking about love,
Yeah.
like he's like, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
But I think the problem with dating apps is going to be like the amount of access you have to different things. Like you just have
Okay,
so
yeah.
much access that
It's sort of
as soon as
spoiled
there's-
for options in a sense.
yeah, exactly. So as soon as you're slightly dissatisfied with something, or you're like, oh, that could be a little bit better.
You just move
There's
on.
like 500 different
Exactly.
options that you can
Literally.
go back to.
Exactly.
And I think that is the real problem.
Yeah.
Whereas if you treated a dating app like it was actually like 100 years ago, where you only have access to the small little town that you have,
Yeah.
you are now going to be putting way more effort into like making
Yeah.
something work
Yeah.
because
100%. Your options are limited.
options are
The
limited.
thing is, I have a friend who, keep them anonymous, are on Hinge and showed us the all the profiles they sort of
Yeah.
been
Swiped right on.
Bro, holy crap. Fucking hell. It went, like, it must have been close to 100.
Really?
100, honestly.
I mean,
Like-
that sort
That
of-
is the point, though, of this type of... It's a dating app. That's the point of that algorithm, is to just give you everything that you've asked for.
Yeah.
But as your point stands, though, you can find one small point of dissatisfaction and just move on.
Yeah.
I think that's why... I think...
It's kind of corruptive.
Exactly.
I guess that emphasizes his point about how easily accessible it is,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
to find different options.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, so do you think something like Instagram or more like mainstream social medias can be considered dating apps? Because me personally, I think I'm of the opinion that Instagram or like any whatever social media is most prominent in whatever like social clique you're in,
Yeah.
that's going to be your best dating app.
I mean, that's
because it
that's a
doesn't
valid
have the
point.
connotations. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that negative perception that like something like Tinder
Yeah.
would have, where it's very heavily considered like a
Yeah.
hookup app now. Instagram's just
Yeah.
Instagram.
Literally.
Everybody's on it,
Yeah.
and it's just
And
so much access.
Yeah, so much access to just talk or message or DM someone.
100%.
Like
Exactly.
yeah.
However you want, as naturally as you can,
Yep.
and it's very successful for like
Yeah.
me personally and just people in general. Everybody raves about it being
Yeah.
ideal,
I mean, I could
I think
agree
that's
with
fair,
that. Like
yeah.
Instagram, Snapchat,
for sure.
like
More mainstream social media.
Just
Yeah.
any like Facebook,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
an app before our time. But I know my brother's very big on Facebook.
would you
and-
say Facebook could be considered a dating app?
ooh, me personally, I feel Facebook's very professional.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
the only thing I use Facebook for is work,
Yeah.
work
Exactly,
group chats.
university, all
It's-
that stuff. Yeah.
Uni. That's the only thing that's happening on my Facebook.
Yeah.
But I think it's a bit different for the people a bit older than us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
And then
to be
people even before them, MySpace.
MySpace.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Jeez,
Yeah.
wait, yeah. I mean, okay, I guess.
Look, maybe, and I'm not picking on you. Like just
Yeah.
in general, people who've sort of come out of it in a sort of like naturally, right? Do you think they try and I don't know, put on a facade that it is true love to sort of avoid, or what's your take on that?
Okay. I know what you're talking about
Yeah.
because we talked about this before,
Yeah.
right? I think some people do it, right?
Could you just explain? I'm kind of lost.
He's saying, do some people like you have your cases where there's actual true love,
Yeah.
right? But do you think there's
Because
a
there is
certain
because there is a stigma around dating apps,
Yeah.
right? And that if you found love on a dating app, you know, it's not really considered true love. So do you think some people just try and force?
fine like so he's saying, do you think there's a certain percentage of people that just force themselves into a relationship to have like a label? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
think for sure. I think
I think yeah.
especially in like the culture we've been kind of grown up in,
Yeah.
there's a huge pressure to kind of
Get in a
Get away.
relationship.
get into a relationship or
Yeah.
date someone. It's
Yeah.
and it's very prominent. You kind of it's
Yeah.
always there. As you get older, it gets worse. I know. I reckon because your parents kind of play into
Oh,
the
man.
game as well. I can only speak about like my kind of ethnic
Yeah.
experience, but I
Do you want
think
to go into detail about that, maybe?
sure.
Yeah.
Obviously I come from like an Indian or like East Asian descent, but
Mm.
my parents are, or they become more involved in the dating
Sure.
scene as you get older, and like you see them going to weddings, and then like aunties and uncles
Yeah.
start
Oh,
talking
facts.
about it,
Oh, yeah.
and then it becomes
Yeah.
a recurring
Yeah.
topic of conversation that
Yeah.
kind of is always pressed on you. And it's weird in an ethnic household. It's like until a certain point the dating is not even a concept that is brought up,
And then,
the next
afterwards,
day,
your mum's complaining that you're not in a relationship.
or you're not married yet, like right, and it is a harsh turnover that I'm sure a lot of
Ethnic.
people can relate to.
Yeah, literally. But yeah, I think that's just being in an ethnic household, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
But I guess on that point though, we talked about, does it corrupt like just love in general?
Yeah.
But does social media corrupt the youth, do you reckon?
What do you think, Heath?
Mm,
I think the social media can. There are
there are pros
huge-
and cons between,
Yeah.
you know, corrupt.
I think it can corrupt people's. So we talked about love, it corrupting like perception.
Yeah.
But then on a wider scale, I think it can corrupt people's maybe like their ability to.
Okay, social media. Most of the time, social media advertises
actually,
a
yeah.
more positive image than it does a
Yes.
negative image, right? So let's say the more the youth are just on social media over and over and over
Yes,
again,
that's-
right? They're conditioned to a more ideal or image of society than they are of, I guess, reality, right? It sort of I think what social media does to youth is that it inverts
Unrealistic expectations.
unrealistic experiences with a utopia. That's what it does, I think.
I could agree with that. So what I was also gonna say was that, like, good that you brought up that point, because I feel like a lot of the youth, right? If you go on Insta, right, you go to your feed, right? Most of the time they'll just be like, just like role models or inspirations,
Yes.
right? And there's a thing with, like body image, for example.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the youth struggle with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like a certain percentage of the youth struggle with body image because they're seeing like all these like what's considered like a perfect
Body.
aesthetically,
And it's just,
aesthetic
it's
body.
all over Instagram.
Exactly.
And it's every second person that you scroll through or you find
Exactly.
has this idealistic
Physique
creation
or
of
something
their
like that.
physique
Yeah,
or whatever,
exactly.
or like whatever you're holding.
Three of us are very big into, at the moment, we're very big into the gym.
Yeah.
There's a number of gym influencers out there
Yes.
who advertise that. There is sort of a more deeper sort of, I guess more harsher reality to that. That's steroids, for example,
Yeah.
right?
Like the use of steroids
use
and
of-
then like
Yeah.
not being completely transparent about it, and then
100%.
how that's going to be playing into like the minds of the general populace. You're seeing these people who are on like a certain amount of gear or whatever, but then also in like idealized lighting,
Oh, yeah,
potentially a bit of
facts.
Photoshop, a good
Yeah.
pump,
Yeah.
and then suddenly you look 5 times better,
Yeah,
you look 10
really.
kilos bigger,
100%.
and all you've done is step into a nice downlight
Exactly.
with a good pump on, and that's all you see though.
Yeah.
You don't see the average looking bloke on
Exactly.
Instagram. All you're seeing is this idealized conception of what these
Exactly.
people are, and then that's going to be playing on your, okay, I have to look like that.
Yeah.
But then I think a lot of people forget to compare their best selves with
Exactly.
these
With their
ideal-
audiences as well, like with the average person in a sense.
Yeah.
Sure, but like,
Because ideally, let's say you're 12 years old, hypothetically, and you're looking at a photo of famous gym influencer.
Yeah.
Let's pick C-Bum, for example,
Sure.
right? And you look at that physique, and the good in that is that it can inspire you for a greater work ethic.
Yeah,
Put more
100%.
time in the gym and whatnot. The downside to that is because obviously there's the harsh realities of bodybuilding and Mr. Olympia. If he's not on gear, and if there's no transparency that C-Bum's been on gear, I think he has opened up that he is on gear.
I'm not sure, but yeah.
Just hypothetically, let's say he wasn't. This kid becomes completely disillusioned with
Yeah.
this whole journey of the gym and whatnot.
And what things are meant to look like
Exactly.
Yeah.
after he's done.
Exactly.
And I think that can be quite, as we were kind of saying, a corruptive cycle.
Yeah.
That you kind of just spiral down. You get in the gym, you're working out, and then you're just not seeing the results that you're conditioned to think you're gonna get. And then that, sure, there's the upside of maybe some of these people, they take it and they run with it. They're like,
Yeah.
I am gonna commit everything I can to this, and they get really motivated. And we have a bunch of friends who have really taken that opportunity to the maximum, and they've really dedicated a
Oh,
good
yeah.
portion of their life
Yeah.
to becoming their best self in that capacity.
Yeah.
But then there's also the flip side where it just spirals really negatively, and
Oh,
you're just
yeah.
like, what is the point of doing anything? Because I'm just not as good as everybody else.
Yeah.
And how is that going to be playing on like your own perception of yourself versus everybody else?
Yeah. I think it's just like taking into account, as long as the youth takes into account the factors that these like celebrities or influencers are, like such as like lighting,
Yep.
for example, like the pump, different angles. If they take that into account, they can maybe understand that that's just what they look like in the most ideal photo,
For sure.
right? Because I feel like the youth is so vulnerable to like body dysmorphia,
True.
which is like actually like a big issue. But I think just understanding that,
Having that education is very important, and like
yeah, facts.
being able to have that education kind of allows you to just utilize social media in a more positive light than the possible cycle.
Just want to give quite a big shout out to someone called Noel Dazel. He's really
yeah.
open about those types of things.
Yeah.
And it definitely educates people on his issues of body dysmorphia and what to do to sort
Yeah.
of get through that. So, but no, there is quite a few. There is that group who aren't as clear and as open.
Yeah.
So that's the main dangers, I reckon.
Do you think social media affects like high school students like that are nearing their end?
Do you want to speak from personal experience?
Oh, I'm just saying like, I feel like high school students may fall victim to like procrastination.
Oh,
quite
for
easily.
sure. I think social media has the very capable ability that you just sit there, and we have all done this, and you just scroll.
Oh my god.
And it's a time vacuum.
Yes,
You will-
literally.
And it's very deceiving because you get off your phone after like an hour or whatever, and you don't even know what you just consumed. And I don't think there has ever been a period of history where we have access to something like that, where you can consume content or you can lose so much time and not even realize what just happened.
Yeah. It's just the addictive
You know
nature
how
of stuff,
Apple
right?
has that thing where it's like screen time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think I must have. There was like a few times I averaged around 9 hours, bro.
And that's
9 hours.
That was nuts. Seriously.
and think about that of like an active day, you might be up for like 16 hours, maybe a bit more, right?
Exactly.
To think,
That's
I just
actually- that's
spent
actually
way
crazy.
more than
I
half
spent more than half of my active day on my phone.
actively on my phone.
Bro.
That's crazy.
That's actually crazy.
And the most messed up part of that is, I don't even think 9 hours approaches the upper limit of what I
Really?
know a lot of people end up on their
Really?
phones. Yeah, I know people very consistently with 10 to 12 hours
That's not
on their
right.
phone during certain periods of time. And I think lockdown saw the worst of it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like,
100%.
Like through school, you'd be you'd be in class, camera off, on your
On your
phone.
phone.
Oh,
Yeah.
for
On your phone.
Yeah.
The whole day. And you finish
Literally.
school, what do? Back on your phone. And
Literally.
it's just scrolling and scrolling and
Yeah, for real.
yeah.
Like the amount of times I've just been on TikTok and it's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna watch 2 more.
Two more, yeah.
And then like, yeah, just watch a few more.
I'll end on good
Just
I'll
keep
end
on
on a good
going.
one. I just gotta find one nice TikTok and I'll be done.
That's actually facts.
It's an endless loop.
Yeah, I think procrastination is a big thing that year 12s really
Struggle with for sure.
And maybe.
How do you think you can get over that?
Oof.
Obviously
Well,
we've all
so many-
graduated, we're all
So many, like, I think we got I think an email when lockdown started for us, I think when we were in year 12, and it was like tips to avoid procrastination. None of that worked.
exactly. I was gonna say,
None of that
none of-
worked.
I feel like, yeah, like I feel like you can just say, oh,
Don't do it.
like, yeah, don't do it. But like,
Keep your phone away from
like, come on, is that really gonna work?
Exactly.
Like, I feel like now that we're in uni, like we've sort of understood like the workload from uni, obviously, and we sort of have reduced the procrastination because I feel like if in our heads we're like, if we don't do this work, we're gonna fall behind, and once we've fallen behind, it's long.
And it's on
Right.
us as well.
Yeah, it's on us, and I feel like just
But you say that, but how many times have you've done an assignment the night before, and then you finish it, you pull the all-nighter, and then the day after you're like, I am never doing that again.
True.
Guess what? Next assessment comes around. What are we doing?
The same thing.
I'll do it. I'll start in a day.
the thing
It's
is,
fine.
the
I'll
thing
do
is-
it.
thing is, most of the time, I've been quite decent
Okay, fair.
compared to high school. Like high
It's
school,
been very good.
high school, I remember I had a PE assignment.
Yeah.
And it was on I think Aboriginal health.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, that assignment. And oh my god, I didn't know it was due like 5 p.m. like
You
this
thought you had the
Monday.
entire day.
And they said 5 p.m. today, and I was like, oh my god, I just started working from like 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. like non-stop.
Yeah.
And it was just so draining. But now in uni, it's just like I've been better.
Yeah.
So, I guess.
Do you have any active tips on avoiding, like ones that actually
Work.
flat out worked? The only
I
one.
guess keep your ambitions like open. Like keep them
Yeah.
up. Like always like say to yourself, okay, me doing this will eventually help me getting to this. Right?
I think it's a mindset thing.
It's yeah.
I think once you like get older and older, you're like, okay, look, these are my goals. If I want to get to this point, I need to do this.
Yeah.
And it's like once you start it, it's like once you've started doing what you're gonna do, I feel like you can't really stop.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to stop. Like have you ever been you've been in the mode, and it's just hard to stop
True.
it and go,
Working.
right?
You're just going. You're
So I feel like
focused.
just putting your foot in, like the first step, will do you in like bits.
Yeah, for
You know
sure.
what I mean? But yeah, what about you? Got any tips?
Only tip that I would say has actually worked for me personally is having accountability from someone else. I think
okay.
involving either close friends or I would say family is like people who are just with you all the time.
Yeah.
If you can get them to hold you accountable and you're just like, okay, today I can't be on my phone. And you literally just hand them your devices, and it's like, don't give them to me outside of prescribed break times because I need to get some stuff done. And and that, I think that's gonna help. You can't talk yourself out of getting your phone back, because you're gonna have to go through that physical process of talking to someone and like lying to yourself in front of whoever you just try to hold yourself accountable to. Whereas like using these apps or whatever, I don't think it works. I've tried using like Forest or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Bro, I'll find another device. I'll go back on that. I'll kill my trees.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like it doesn't work for me.
Yeah,
I'll run every master password to get out of the lock. Everything. Nothing's ever worked besides.
What are your thoughts on timetables though?
Timetables, I think they're great. In the sense that they can be very good. You need to be of a certain mindset for them to work as efficiently as possible.
Yeah.
But I think loose timetabling is very good. Not having like everything down to a minute or like an hour sort of thing, but having certain prescribed goals on a daily basis. A checklist sort of thing that you want to get done can be quite productive.
Yeah.
I agree with that, yeah.
Ooh, so I've also kind of thought about this idea. I don't know how effective it would be in reality, but it's the idea of keeping an hourly journal. So, whenever you start the day, every hour of that day, you write down one sentence about what you just completed in the last day.
In the last day?
Oh, sorry, in the last hour, yeah. And you do this every hour that you're awake.
Ooh.
I think that could actually ramp up productivity insanely. Like, the concept to me, like every hour, if I'm like, I scrolled social media, I feel like that would eat at me after the first day. It would really burn, and I would just get mad at myself because there's a good part of me that wants to always be doing something productive and not waste time. And if I kept that physical accountability, I think it could be really powerful.
I think another thing that makes it easier is if you feel guilty for procrastination.
Right.
I think it's a lot easier for you to hold
and
yourself.
Forcing that guilt out of you when you write down your sentence about I did nothing,
Yeah.
I think that would hurt.
That would actually, yeah, just like seeing, like, I feel like sometimes in your head you sort of just like allow it.
Yeah.
But when you see it or someone tells you about it, like you're like, oh,
I gotta get my stuff together.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I guess.
So that could be a way, yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, there we go. I think we hit a little tangent on that.
Yeah.
But if we wanna come back to our social media ideas, the next kind of idea we're kind of talking about are acts of goodwill in modern society almost ingenuous because of the prominence of social media.
Oof.
So just to explain acts of goodwill, I'm really talking about like donating to charity or like
Giving food to the homeless.
Giving food to the homeless. I think it's very prominent now. We consume a lot of content of people doing these acts of goodwill. Do we believe there is a sense of like an ingenuous kind of?
I think yes and no.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, explain.
I think. So if I take into account, or actually, just the like in real life situation, right?
Yeah.
Just like homeless people on the street.
Yeah.
I think your first instinct to actually help a homeless person or donate to a charity is actually something of goodwill.
Yeah.
But the ingenuous part is like the feeling you'll get after it, being like, oh, like you're a good person. You know what I mean? Or like for example, Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
Right. If we talk about Mr. Beast, love Mr. Beast. Just say like let's just say that he's great content, great YouTuber. But there's been videos of him that he's like donating like bunch of money.
Yeah.
He's rich, right? But he donates a bunch of money to like people, charities, etc. Right? But it's like after you donate all this money, you're donating it and you're providing it as content to your audience. You're gonna get all that money back, if not more. Right? You're gonna profit from it.
And is that where it kind of becomes ingenuous?
Maybe if the donations and you know these acts of charity, if they're calculated, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
It's a case of,
but
you know, has because look, there might be an upside to what Mr. Beast is doing. Like he's inspired so many people to do the same
100%.
thing as well, right? So I'm not saying that, you know, that wasn't his goal, right?
100%.
But I'm saying a side product of that is, you know,
The calculated.
nature
Yeah.
of it, right?
But then is
'Cause
that
some people
even-
might take it for maybe showing off and
Sure.
and boasting about it. So
But is it really a bad thing if we're
That is true.
if it's
like
if
the
it's-
act is
yeah.
is inherently good. Like giving to charity, regardless if your aim was to take it and make profit from it,
Yeah.
regardless of that being true or not, is the actual act of donating
from-
to charities.
Okay, yeah.
From personal take, honestly, I think from watching Mr. Beast, I think it's a good thing. I
Yeah.
think what he's doing is an extremely good thing as
I-
well.
yeah.
I think his content as well is a lot of the time it's sort of devoted to these acts of goodwill as well. It's like there's this, sort of this consistency where he's advocating for, people to go out of their way to help, people who
Yeah.
might be struggling and whatnot. I think it becomes a problem, and I haven't seen this a lot, honestly, but where people actually go out of their way to boast about what they've done on
Okay.
social media. I haven't seen that personally. I think that's
I think that idea is just like, if it actually happens, like it's just not called for.
it's not
Fair.
called for.
You know what I mean?
Exactly, right?
Like, just. I think yeah.
But to even the boasting thing, I would say, okay, if I'm a celebrity and I have a bunch of money and I have a large following behind me, and because I saw this, I remember seeing it somewhere. This very prominent social media figure, they donated a bunch of money,
Yeah.
and then they posted on their social media like a receipt of the
Oh, really?
donation amount. And I'm like, okay, we just kind of said that was kind of uncalled for. But
Okay.
I'm also like, would that not be so inspiring for that entire following? And I think social media is one of those things where things get taken.
What is it inspiring? That is inspiring people to
donate.
and then show their receipts to the public.
Well,
What's it
regardless
doing?
if they show the receipts or not.
Ideally, the inspirational act from that is donating. Ideally, that's what we'd want it to be.
Yeah, the
but
act itself is like, if we go back to that Mr.
Yeah.
Beast example, I agree. Like that act itself
Yeah.
is a good thing.
Okay.
Right, like the charity is gaining from it.
Yeah.
Yep.
The charity is not losing anything.
Yeah.
Right. They're only gaining, but if we go back and say the receipt thing that you're talking about, I think. Oh.
But see, okay, look, as a society, what we've just done is we have taken a extremely generous and pure act of giving to like the poor,
Yeah.
needy, whatever, and we've turned that into something where we look down on the person who just committed and went through with this extremely positive act for the simple reason that you feel like this person is having ingenuous intent behind their action, where in reality they have just
done something out of
done
goodwill.
something good.
Helped it. Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Like, why is it that we condemn these people for even posting? We said, oh,
Yeah.
it was uncalled for, but is it really uncalled for? Like,
I think it's the thought behind it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
The thought behind why they post. If they, like in your case, how you brought it up, if they intentionally had the thought to just boast about it and be like flex it,
But, yeah.
that's uncalled for. But if it's more of a thing of a thought where it's to inspire and motivate people to do the same like act,
Yep.
then I think it's better.
do you think we would have more negative commentary from the public or on social media if someone were to post something publicly like that?
Like what? As in
Like
the
a receipt, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
why? And then obviously you don't know the actual intent of that person. So why is it we are so conditioned to
Ooh.
assume the pessimistic lens straight away?
Okay,
And
let
is
me
that
ask
a
you
product
let
of
me
social
let-
media?
Let me ask you a question. Would you donate? Look, you donated to a charity of your choice.
Yeah.
Are you going to post a receipt of that money on social media?
No, because of I understand like the fact that we were so instantaneous to be like, yeah, it would be shit on if you did that. I am so aware of that it would be I wouldn't even consider it.
Yeah.
But why is it that we are like that? Like I feel like we shouldn't be like that. It's donating is such a pure act.
Yeah.
And social media in a sense it's almost corrupted the thought process behind it where we are we're degrading that act to something that's
We're sort of looking for something to shit on we're looking to shit on them basically, right? We're trying to
Well,
ignore.
no, and I feel like that's uncalled
true.
for on a larger societal idea. That is
So-
uncalled
So
for.
why do you think? What do you think that is?
Because social media propagates the idea of comparison, and
Well,
we
do
see
you-
someone posting a receipt of a value that we see significant, and some part of us tells us that we should be comparing and not taking it for what it is, and that's because social media is just like that in general. We talked about body image. I look at this person. A lot of people don't take it as inspiration off the bat. They take it as I'm not like that, where it should be I'm trying to get like that, or good on you for doing that. It's everything becomes ingenuous so quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas, again, if you take it from this alien lens who doesn't know anything, surely if they look at it as like, okay, this person's just telling everyone, look, I was able to give a significant amount of money.
I think the
surely
reason-
everybody else can as well.
I think the reason why is just that because you can't ignore there is the population who do these acts ingenuously, right?
Yeah.
And just how social media is, we spotlight that more than we do.
But why
that's
is it
good.
now that negative perception or that negative lens is now the general opinion? We don't charge
'cause I think-
criminals
well,
before they conduct the crime. Yet, without knowing their intent,
I think
we get on them.
I think it's.
Do you think half of the reason why it's such a large proportion of people that have pessimistic views, some percentage of it can be attributed to mass hysteria?
100%.
And do you think that's driven by social media?
Well, social media is mass
Yeah,
hysteria. Social media, like, you can see a comment and you're like, yeah, some part of me agrees with it, you like it. And then
Exactly.
suddenly
you're on that,
and then there's suddenly thousands and
Of
thousands
people.
of people, and that just becomes common knowledge. And now that is now the opinion.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, I feel like people just buy into
Whatever's
whatever's trending or whatever's popular,
trending, 100%.
like that opinion.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's also
That's
to do
human
with that-
nature.
Yeah. But again, that sort of leads back to the point about social media corruption.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Why do you think that's the case? What do you think? How do you think social media has caused that? Do you think that?
I think it's just inherent. I think
Yeah.
mass hysteria is definitely something that has been very prominent in society forever. Like
Crucible, for
we looked at the
example.
Crucible,
Yeah.
we looked at Salem Witch Trials, and that the whole foundation of that was based
Mass
on mass
hysteria, yeah.
Even like the most famous, I would probably say the most famous story of all time, like the whole Jesus. That whole thing is mass hysteria. To some extent, it is mass hysteria. Whether, like, regardless of what side of that argument you're on, everything is always I kind of follow the larger, because it's easier to be a part of a bigger group than stand for your own opinion.
Yeah.
I guess, like, if we sort of link that to the next idea, do you think that social media can be manipulative?
Oh, 100%. So let's look at it from like a political standpoint. I reckon you could manipulate
Not just the
public
political
opinion
standpoint,
very quickly.
Before you go into
Yeah.
a political standpoint, even from a social standpoint as well, I've seen a TikTok of I think it was a bloke. He was basically the title of it was proof as to why social media is fake, and he's at the gym and he's posing, and then it transitions into him sucking his stomach in, you know, trying to the lighting as well, trying to manipulate the lighting as well. So things like that. I think that's just
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like that links perfectly with this mass hysteria thing, where it's like these negative opinions, people's opinions are manipulated to sort of believe that.
and they're bandwagoning on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Joel, what are your thoughts on just the manipulative nature of
social media? I think because social media is that easiest access for everyone to get to an opinion, that's when we want an opinion, generally social media is where you're going to find them, where it's easiest to find the larger collective opinion. So as I was kind of saying on a political sense, I know social media is very big in American politics. It's not so much prominent here in Sydney, but on an American scale, it's another avenue for these politicians to kind of get into the population and kind of become one.
Trump and the Capitol riots, maybe.
100%, right? We saw it a lot where, like, even like things like Twitter, and just having those public opinions there, And then on a literal manipulation standpoint, having like bots and stuff like certain comments so that they go to the top of the feed, and then that looks like it's the public, that looks like it's the most collective idea, right? And when people see a certain idea to have way more like backing from a large number of people, we don't actually recognize that as, oh, they're not actually real likes, or it's not actually the top comment, but we assume it is. So then a part of us almost thinks, before we've even read it, it's like, that's going to be correct. Because more people agree with that than the second one. And that's going to be direct manipulation. And I'm sure there's some scientific backing with that, where if something's more liked or more well accepted, or we assume it's more well accepted, we are going to have some sort of bias to it.
Okay. I feel like also like just the news in general is so like, you hear all these stories like a current
mainstream
affair. Or like current affair, like 9 News, for example. Like all these like stories that they sort of talk about, like they don't actually talk about the whole story. And even like TikToks, for example, I feel like nowadays with TikToks and like YouTube Shorts, they're all like 20-second clips, right? And they don't show the actual whole video. And
it is so dangerous.
So dangerous because people are so quick to judge, right? And I think that way like people's words can be manipulated, and again that could they could fall into a trap.
Easily people are gonna go for a 20-second video to get some information over a 1-hour news bulletin. Right?
For sure.
Exactly.
And you see that in a literal sense, where like even something like this podcast, you chop things up and suddenly things sound way different from what was intended. You remove context and you remove the actual whatever. Like you can cut up a 30-minute dialogue and reduce a certain sentence to 20 seconds, and it looks very different.
100%.
And if public opinion is like that, then certain people can be created in a certain lens that can be looked very favorably upon, or the opposite case where you see them being very negatively viewed in the public because we're consuming this 20-second version of
that's true.
their opinion.
That's true.
Do you think that will get worse over time? Just the reason I say that is because as years have gone down, as generations have passed, the way we consume news, we prefer an abbreviated version of that compared with something that will be a little bit more detailed and will give it the full scope of what's basically being provided. That looks like it's going to get worse over time. Because of that, what do you think the consequences will be maybe 20 years down the track? What do you think?
You talking about like an legal standpoint or what?
Not just a legal standpoint, but a social standpoint
as well. On a social standpoint, I think we've kind of seen it now where we shorten content as much as we do. And then, I don't know if it's a directly correlated trend, but we see cancel culture exponentially go up, right? We cut people's opinions down, and everybody has a radical opinion nowadays. Everybody has a hot take. And suddenly, as these hot takes and these ideas get shortened and more abbreviated, cancel culture goes up and up and up, because I'm like, oh, you said that was your last sentence, that's what I consumed. I don't know what the entire thought process was. I consumed that, I consumed your final thought, and I don't like your final thought. And now I don't want you on my social media. And everybody feels like that. I
think Ethan, you were talking about before a TikTok that you saw about cancel culture.
Yeah. Do you want to play it or talk about
it? Give us some context.
The main context to that is so the New South Wales Premier, Dominic Perrottet, he'd recently been called out for a photo where he's wearing a Nazi costume. And that was like 20 years ago, right? Obviously what he did wasn't, wasn't a smart thing whatsoever. But the way people...
Do you know the context of why... Were you like
I think he might
parading in a Nazi?
Like a dress, like
I think it was just a dress-up party, It's
okay.
Like something like that. Dumb thing, but like 20... It's been 20 years since that's happened. Does he still need to be crucified for a mistake that he's made and acknowledged for
that was a long time ago.
It's a long time ago, right? And in the TikTok, the bloke talks about how, different generations, times past, we acknowledge different things, we grow and we mature with these changing and evolving sort of, social constructs, right? And obviously he's recognized, okay, I fucked up, right? why does he still need to be, you know,
Yeah.
Kind of
Um,
crucified for it.
crucified for it? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
And
know.
that
I
is
kinda feel
and
for
that
him.
is
Yeah.
and that is a product of cancel culture. That's cancel culture is just sort of the reason why something that's happened 20 years ago, why I guess why a mistake 20 years ago, why that's been enlarged because of cancel culture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just to touch on that, an interesting idea that kind of comes from it is, so we said he's gone to some like birthday party or something in this Nazi
Yeah.
costume. I'm not condoning the activity
Yeah.
or supporting
Yeah.
it at all.
Yeah.
However, he's obviously done this in like a private setting
Yeah.
for a bit of humor.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's okay to not have the ability to make anything humorous. I think
Yeah.
comedy should be something that we have complete freedom with, especially in a private setting. He's not parading in this Nazi uniform, and there's no public effect. It's in a controlled environment, and he's played maybe a joke. Let's hope it's
Yeah.
under the
let's
context that it's a joke.
Yeah.
That, and if it was, I don't even know if we should condemn it at all.
Yeah.
Because why is it that comedy is something that we can now censor? That is
Can
not.
we just talk about like the evolution of like KSI content, for example? 9 years ago, some of the content he was
Oh,
making,
yeah, exactly.
that's not surviving today because of cancel culture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All for the simple reason he posted that because it's a joke,
Yeah.
you know. So
I think I guess that sort of goes back again to that point about manipulation, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Dominic Perrottet, KSI, right? I feel like it was the original idea was just a humorous
Comedic
sort of
joke.
right? But the way that people sort of manipulated to make it seem like it was like like they were actually serious about it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then on an unfortunate note for Dominic, right? Obviously, when he's like, I'm assuming he was like 20 or something when he was doing this Nazi costume. He doesn't have the reputation of the public lens. Like, he wasn't a huge prominent figure at that age, right? And he's conducting this joke, and I'm sure he's not thinking about, oh, in 30 years' time, I'm going to be a huge politician.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the face of public opinion. But he's done this.
Yeah.
But then now we're scrutinizing him as if he was conducting those actions with the same mindset that he has now. And I don't think that's particularly fair on him. I think we've come to the conclusion that
but it's not.
that's probably not the greatest thing, but I think that shows social media at its rawest, most maybe not detrimental, but its most critical form, where we scrutinize every aspect of someone's life simply because it's on display.
Yeah, literally. Yeah,
I think that can be super corruptive when the person is maybe not of the stature that Dominic is. One that comes to mind is like Justin Bieber. I know growing up, he obviously very young, but he was scrutinized like he was an adult, or like he was
15 years old.
He was 15, 16,
Oh my God.
being scrutinized by the media like he was meant to be some media trained
literally.
PC. Like, it was insane. And I don't know about that. Like, social media can be pros and cons, for sure. Pros and cons.
It's a bit of a side note. Did you guys see, I think it was a while ago, Justin Bieber's like sort of medical condition?
What happened?
Oh,
like the
yeah.
nerve, like
His
one of his facial nerves, I think, was like messed up with, and so like he had no facial expression on like
on one side, yeah.
It was like it was
It was
crazy.
bad.
I don't know if hopefully he's recovered by now.
But yeah.
I think that sort of goes onto our intrusive thought of
For
the
today's podcast. So I guess what we were kind of considering for it is that, does social media actually restrict freedom of speech? And is that something... So obviously we have a right to the freedom of speech. In America, there's a constitutional right to freedom of speech. But then, should we be having that right on social media? And how much should it actually be censored? Or is it okay to be censored?
See, we were talking about it before. I think that a lot of people, like, there's this whole big deal about freedom of speech. Everyone sort of wants freedom of speech, right?
Yeah.
But it's like social media puts this sort of environment where it's like, if you say something that's slightly controversial, you're gonna get a lot of like backlash for it, right? And it's like, at that point, is there really freedom of speech? Know what I
Not
mean?
really, not really. I mean,
What do you reckon, Ethan?
could depend on the person as well. If someone is so quick to respond to the backlash and just not decide to respond at all,
Yeah.
that's an example of where their freedom of speech has been restricted. And obviously, it's going to be different with a person like Tate, for example, where he's going to post irrespective of all
Yeah,
the
he
shitty
doesn't really
cops,
care.
right? He doesn't care, right? But for that other portion, yeah, it's a restriction of freedom of speech
Yeah.
right there.
Do
100%.
you believe in Tate's idea of the Matrix?
The Matrix. I think I think I'm not too sure what the details regarding what he means by Matrix, but I think there are probably some aspects of it that I agree. I think Andrew Tate has a lot of obviously very controversial opinions, but I think a lot of what he says, if taken in the right lens and you really sat down and kind of came at it with a positive mindset, you could probably find some aspects that would be quite empowering or quite useful for your life.
Yeah.
And you're not watching like a 20-second short of what
Yeah,
he's saying
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think coming into anything with a negative mindset is really going to skew your perception of it.
Yeah.
And then at that point, regardless of what he said, you'd kind of have this negative mindset to it. But if you were to take the positive lens, I think there could be some useful information there.
What are your thoughts on this? Right, we're talking about Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Now as we said, he doesn't really care, right?
Yeah.
He sort of just says whatever he wants to say. But on social media, he gets a lot of backlash for it.
Yeah.
So do you think that, do you think there's anything that is particularly, I mean, you said there could be stuff that's controversial, but does that restrict his freedom of speech?
I think, see, from a societal point of view, obviously from like a legal point of view, there's they're all private organizations. They can do what they want. If they want to get rid of them, they can. They have complete liability to do what they want. But from like a socially correct point of view, I don't actually think it's something that we should be censoring as hard as we do.
Yeah.
I think people should be very well entitled to their own opinions, and especially when they're not. He's not committing a crime by saying any of this.
Yeah.
He's not ruining anyone's reputation. He's literally speaking his mind. I think that should never be censored or corrupted, because as soon as we allow someone to, or like a private organization to kind of tell us what we are allowed to say and not, we're moving backwards in terms of our social constructs. And I've thought about the idea where, let's say 100 years ago, slavery was something that we accepted. It was a very prominent part of a lot of people's lives, and it was something that the general populace agreed upon, and they were conditioned to think it was okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, now we have very different standpoints on that, and restricting freedom of speech, I know I've kind of blown up the example, but restricting freedom of speech will allow us to go back to things where they may potentially be corruptive or not right, but then we're just blind to it because we're censoring the other opinion, and we're just not aware of what could potentially be right because it's a minority opinion.
Do you want to say Tate's a realist, right? So do you reckon, so saying social media restrict freedom of speech, do you think social media is restricting realists?
Yeah.
I think
there's a percentage that
Yeah.
because I feel like, and I was going to talk about this, is that society puts this. I think you touched upon it. Society puts this sort of expectation of what you should and shouldn't say.
Yeah.
Right. But again, that restricts freedom of speech, obviously.
Yeah.
So going back to your point, I feel like realists, for example, they express their own opinions.
Generally, the stuff they'll talk about is extremely stuff you wouldn't necessarily want to hear. It's extremely taboo.
Yeah.
And because of that,
but see, it's only taboo because social media often social media propagates the idea that it's taboo.
Exactly. So, back to my point. What do you think? What do you think as well?
Yeah.
On realism and social media?
Yeah.
I think realism should be on social media. It's necessary. I think we are all entitled to that.
But do you think social media is restricting it?
100%.
Yeah.
Maybe not realism as like a wider thing, but like obviously we've seen Andrew Tate being like literal. I'm pretty sure he's completely removed from social media.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then I guess that's. I think he's in legal trouble now, so it's more justifiable now.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure about the whole
Yeah, I don't
whole
know too.
situation. However, theoretically, if he has no legal problems, I don't think that's something we should be allowed to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, the way private companies are set up, they do as they please, but on a general social concept, that's not something I'm particularly fond of.
I think also you were talking about or before I remember you talking about an article that you
Oh yeah.
saw.
Okay. So the article I was kind of looking at the other day was I came across this quote by this professor at NYU, and what he's saying is, I'll just read the quote. "The prevalence of anonymous accounts and bots has evolved into socio-political scourge. It has threatened the integrity of our elections, divided our nation, and as Jonathan had it put it, systematically made us more stupid. We should change course and require proof of identity online." So, I think that is a very interesting quote there, particularly that last part about requiring proof of identity online. I think that the foundational concept he wants is people to be held really accountable of what they say, which I don't think is a bad thing. However, I think the problem with that is when there is this huge prevalence of cancel culture and having really negative backlash for simply having your own stance on something, whether or not be politically correct or whatever, you can have quite a lot of backlash for just having your own opinion. And if I was to be forced, or if you were to force everybody to have that proof of identity, it's going to make people a lot more conditioned to just be with the general politically correct opinion.
Yeah.
And we're just not going to evolve as a society if it were to be necessary.
Yeah.
100%.
I think like as you said, if you're forced to prove your identity online, everyone's just going to be like sort of
The politically correct facade
exactly
of a
they
person.
won't be expressing their actual realistic opinion.
Thoughts. Yeah.
And so again, it comes back to the idea where it's like people say they want freedom of speech, but does society actually give that for you? And I wouldn't, you know. What's your take on that?
Because it's just you're censoring it. It's
Yeah.
going to be a lot more censored. So, like your point of, it's not really going to help with socio-political progression as such, right?
Yeah.
Do you think we need some sort of censorship though? Do you think it's the duty of these social media companies to be like, well, that's not actually morally correct. We can't have that be
Things
feeding
like-
into our
I'm just
population?
going to give one example. Things like, is it not treason? Like for example, like terrorist threats or things like that have been advertised, whatnot. Obviously, those will be taken down.
Outside of things that are just flat out legally wrong, things that are just like criminal activity, obviously not going to stand.
Yeah.
Outside of criminal activity, do you think there should be almost a moral police on social media?
No.
Why not? Okay, so let's say these companies, they are very well aware that there's a huge younger populace that engage on social media. I believe the TikTok age restriction is 16, but I know, I tutor year 6 kids personally. I know every single one of those kids is on TikTok. It is the go-to pastime during our breaks. Everyone whips their phones up and they
TikTok
consume
scrolling.
5 minutes of scrolling, right? And that is just a part of society, and it's understood. Even though there is that age restriction, people are very well aware that it's not abided to. So then, because of that, is it now these private organizations' duty, almost moral responsibility, to protect these people, or just people who are like more obliged to just not be aware of the dangers of social media?
Ooh.
No, you put it that way.
That's a good.
Because it's easy. It's always, and what we just did is we focused on one half of the argument, and we hyper focused there.
Yeah.
We were like, we need realism. This is bad. Social media is bad. But then, I think that's the problem with social media. We very rarely look at it from the other point of view.
Yeah. I think So, your question is, should there be like a moral police on social media?
Yeah.
I think with conditions.
With conditions?
With conditions.
Are there any conditions that you could give us?
That's what I think of.
Yeah.
But like, I just don't feel like there should be for every single like account or every single how do I put it? Because again, as I said, that whole point of restricting freedom of speech, I just don't think like everything in balance, I think. So if social media is being abused, like it's not being used the right way, then yeah, sure, we can have like a moral police that's sort of requiring proof of identity. But if it's being like used fine, then I think.
Okay, so what about catfishing?
What about it?
So okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so with catfishing.
Yeah.
When we talk about like for example, sexual predators.
Yep.
Right? A lot of them make catfish accounts.
Yep.
And then talk to these random, I don't
People.
know, talk to the youth.
Yep.
And sometimes the youth are vulnerable and they play into it.
Yep.
Right? And they ask for meetups and things can happen.
Yep,
right?
for sure.
I think for that case, yes, there should be a proof of identity.
Explain to me how
That's the thing.
those censoring catfishing is not possible without proof of identity, but then true freedom of speech is also not possible.
It's kind of contradictory.
It's a straight juxtaposition of what we want.
So what is the solution?
So what is the solution? Is there a solution that we
Is there
can?
a solution?
Oh.
And that's the thing. I don't think there actually is one that would.
It's easy for me to go, no, right?
Yeah.
As in, no, there's no solution.
No, as in no moral police. It's easy for me to say no, but
But would it not be chaos without it?
It would.
Again, I think this is another thing where it's like there's pros and cons for both.
Fair.
Yeah.
So let's look at another pro and con. So we were talking about love towards, or like the
At the start, yeah.
so social media having this corruptive nature on love. Do you think that is something social media companies should be kind of concerned about? They're like, oh, realistically, it's probably better for society if we have more solid like relationships. Like it would be better for the world if we had more stable relationships. So the way I'm gonna kind of avoid that, let's just ban all like soft porn on Instagram. What I mean by soft porn is like revealing pictures, that sort of stuff. And we should just remove that because that gives too much access to a younger population that kind of like disrupts and corrupts their point of view of the world. Is that something that is feasible? Because then that's restricting an even more pure, even more basic than freedom of speech is going to be freedom of expression.
Yeah.
Right? It's more foundational. So how can you create solutions whilst still maintaining some sort of freedom?
Oh. Ethan, what's your take on that?
And I think it just kind of ends up in a vicious cycle where there really is no good answer here. And I think at the end of the day, everyone's trying to do their best in some capacity.
Yeah.
There's probably like 500 guys like us who sit there on some board panel at the top of Instagram, at the top of Twitter or Facebook.
Yeah.
I think it's Meta now. And they probably preach the same things or the same concepts we're talking about. But then there's another guy on the other end who's like, realistically, if we do that,
Yeah, they go into the other side of it.
there's the other side of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Well, so you're saying there's probably no solution.
There is no perfect solution.
Not the moment.
I don't think there ever can be.
Yeah.
Because whenever you create anything, there'll always be someone smarter than me who tries to just corrupt it
Yeah.
and take advantage of it and
And I feel like they're just too opposite to each other that they will just never
can't
be.
find
can't
a
coexist.
balance.
There is no
balance.
intersection
Yeah.
between the two ideas.
What I was also gonna get your opinion about.
Yeah.
Wait, so are we done with that freedom of?
I think we're kind of
We haven't really found a solution for that intrusive thought, but
I mean, I think our solution is that there is no solution.
Yeah.
You know what
and
I
I
mean?
think it's one of those paradoxes where I mean, I would love to hear if any of you guys watching come up with some solution.
You guys comment down below what you think.
Drop it down.
What you guys think?
We would be very
if there's
keen.
any solutions.
and we'll definitely bring it up in the next episode for sure,
sure.
100%.
But I was also going to ask, certain social medias are banned in some countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I know some of the reasons is China banned Facebook, didn't it?
Yeah,
Or
Facebook,
YouTube?
Google. I don't know about YouTube.
I don't know.
Still, the concept stands. Is it? Again, governments can
Do you
do
think-
what they want,
Do you
but
think
let's.
it's a good or bad thing?
Yeah.
Again, because
Okay, what are the positives? What are the positives? What are the positives of banning social media?
Have Chinese citizens been conditioned to think that their social media, that their social media environment is the best, right? Or is
No, but it's more so you can't miss what you don't have or what you've never
well, you've
known.
never exactly.
So
right.
they're just not.
They're not really yearning
aware.
for
Yeah, exactly.
Instagram or Facebook or
Mm.
things like that.
I think. What your question was?
What are the benefits?
What are the benefits? Okay, I mean, if we go on about the ideas we brought upon today,
Yeah.
right, I feel like the prevalence of people who struggle with body image would be less,
100%.
right? I feel like procrastination could also be less.
Yeah.
Like people would be more productive with their time.
But to be fair, we said TikTok. We've brought TikTok up a lot as a time vacuum. China, TikTok, like that.
Oh, China have.
Oh yeah, China.
I think
TikTok
Is
came
it-
out of
it-
China.
India has banned TikTok.
Yes,
Yeah.
India's banned TikTok.
Right.
Yeah,
So like just like countries that ban social media in general,
sure.
right? I feel like
But it's not like they don't have their own social medias.
yeah, that's true. But like certain ones.
Theoretically, procrastination goes down.
Yes. What else?
I'd be very interested to see what the divorce rate is like.
Oh,
I think there's a huge ethnic thing where generally very ethnic countries have lower divorce rates, but how much of
Yeah.
that is a direct correlation with
with social media.
Social media,
fair.
right?
alright,
I don't think
yeah.
Do you reckon social media plays into account?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I think social media propagates the idea that if I'm slightly dissatisfied with my relationship, I have so much access
To a new one.
to a new one.
To a new
quite,
To a new
quite
one.
brutally.
Oh
That's
my
just
God.
kind of how it is. Beautiful. I think that's going to conclude our social media episode
Our
here on
first episode.
Proper
Intrusive
episode.
Thoughts.
Proper one.
Make sure you guys tune into this episode.
And we'll
Like-
see you next time.
Like,
Yeah.
subscribe, comment down below, put your notifications on, and yeah, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next time.